My name is Rob Chavez. I'm one of the facilitators here, along with my partner in crime, Mark Beckett, right? We've been hosting these to help our community understand how to build wealth, create financial independence. And tonight's topic is on short-term rentals, right? There's been a lot of discussion on short-term rentals. But before we get started, we're going to go through and kind of have you guys introduce yourselves to us, to each other, because really a lot of the power in the relationships are the relationships that you form in here, right? So it's also the network that you build, and then we'll kind of go live on some of the stuff. So Ali, introduce yourself real fast.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ali Dabar. I'm an agent with the CAZA Group. I work with Rob and Mark. I specialize in helping investors, builders, developers. I'm part of Grid. It's a community that every month we have a different topic here in this room, talking about a different topic of investing in real estate. Also, once a month, we do introduction to real estate investing. So if that's something that's beneficial to you, we'll do that.
Cool.
Good.
Cool.
How's it going, guys? I'm Coleman Bales. I work at Atlantic Coast Mortgage and do a lot of loans for the CAZA Group, but also do real estate investing on the side. And that's really the reason I'm here. So it's great to meet everybody here.
All right.
Yes, Kevin, same as Ali here. I'm an agent investor with CAZA Group. So literally everything he just said, I'm happy to, looking forward to introducing and networking with all you guys. So.
Hi,
You're
I'm Sherry
Interviewed.
Reed. I'm Sherry Reed. I'm an agent and I've done a little bit of investing. I have a midterm rental starting up in Tampa. And I focus on seniors moving into the next level of care. So purchasing their homes from them. And also I just joined a group called Perch Houses, and we provide co-living spaces for women over 55 midterm rate rental. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen Claire. I'm with Sampson Realty, and I mostly do things on the appraiser side, and I have a couple of rentals in the local area, just hoping to get more into investing.
I'm Buki Deli. I work with the CAZA Group as well. I'm a real estate planner. I specialize in helping people downsize, so I would love to network with you. And I help people protect their wealth when they transfer their wealth. So I help people plan for the future and beyond.
awesome. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Michael Lawrence. I'm a real estate investor and I am licensed, and I'm actually looking to go put that to use now. Would love to chat with some of you guys about your experience.
Awesome.
My name is Bronson Carmichael, and I own CPV Media, and we help real estate agents sell listings and sell themselves. I would love to connect with you if you're an agent or an investor, anybody that needs to market property or market yourself or your business. And yeah, thanks Rob for having me to help out with the audio and video stuff.
Yeah, he upped our game today, so you can see him in action. Hello. I'll hold it for you.
Oh, all right. Hi, my name is Vivit Chijana. Nice meeting you, Rob. I'm always following you on Facebook.
Thank you.
I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams McLean, and also an investor. We have very few residential properties. We have a short-term rental also in Myrtle Beach. Look forward to learning a bit more about short-term rental and midterm rental.
How long have you had that short-term rental for?
A very short time, since January.
Okay, great. Well, you're closing in on a year, so it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. It'll be an interesting conversation for us to have tonight.
Sure. And my wife's going to join me.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Sloan Wiesen. I'm a realtor with Sampson Properties right here in Reston. I do some buy and hold, and I'm also interested in subject twos. I've never done a subject two, but I'm kind of interested in it. So
Sounds great. Can you see Sloan?
Hi, I'm Marshall Vikramaratna with Sampson Properties, and I'm an agent and a small scale investor. So this is my second meeting with you guys, and I'm here to learn and grow. Yep.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Lenny Berger, owner of Handy Match Home Remodeling. So we help customers reimagine the space under their existing roof. So we do a lot of kitchens, baths, basements, remove load bearing walls, open concreted basements to have bathrooms, projects like that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things I discovered about Lenny is that he does a lot of the structural stuff, right? the structural stuff inside the house, not really kind of like doing the additions, but inside the house, right? So very niche. I was like, you gotta talk to Mark because he had a situation one time. I was like, you need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Malatesta, owner of PMI Fairfax. Manage residential and commercial properties. That's pretty much what we do, but I'm also a personal investor. Come to the group for a long, long time. So always here to help and love to chat with everybody.
That's great.
Welcome, John.
Everybody, my name is Austin Rayburn. I'm new to real estate investing. It's my second meeting here. You guys have upped your game. This looks awesome. Great setup. So it's great to be here. I've been a few ago already, but looking forward to meeting more of you and just learning more about real estate investing and kind of the right path going forward.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Anastasia. I'm actually an agent with Fulcrum Residential, and I'm same as you. I'm new to the game, so learn here. Learn as much as I can.
With Fulcrum?
Yeah, with Fulcrum.
Love those guys. Love you guys, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jesse Canal. I'm very new to the investing thing. It's my second meeting along with you guys. Here to learn about every type of real estate investing. I do hold one in rental property down in Virginia Beach. I moved up here because of military. I retire next year, and this is my ultimate goal when I retire is to do this full time.
Awesome.
Skip over you.
Hey, Thomas Price with Home Pro Property Management. We do residential property management in the DMV, and pretty much just here to network, meet people, hang out, have fun.
Yes. Thank you, Thomas.
Hi, I'm Vanessa, and I'm new to real estate investing. This is my third meeting at this location. And I also go to the Fairfax one sometimes.
Right.
And I'm here to learn and network. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do it.
Welcome.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Karen Ulloa, and I'm new to real estate as well. I'm joining the second meeting crew as well. I'm here to network. Yeah, I'm here to network. Me and my husband are set to close on our first investment property on Friday. So, thank you. For short-term rental. So like, this is the meeting. I need to be at it. The meeting is right. So nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. Hello.
Hello, hi, my name is Shanice. I am also new to real estate investing, but I'm an agent, home stager, but I'm just ready to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
welcome. Well, I'm sure we're gonna have more people coming in, but
We have one right now. We have a cost over here.
okay. And then we're just gonna get started. We're gonna
Okay.
get into this.
Yep.
Right.
Sure, thank you so much. My name is Vikas Grover. I live in Herndon, Virginia. I am an active investor. I invest primarily in North Carolina, three properties now, and I'm kind of trying to add one a quarter. Winchester has been my area of interest recently. I've been touring the area. So just trying to be in Virginia and North Carolina, basically. So, yeah.
We've got Myrtle Beach, we've got North Carolina, we've got Winchester, Virginia, Front Royal. I heard Tampa. Where else? Where else are people owning right now? Is that it? Okay.
That's pretty good cross section.
That's a good cross section, right?
That's a good little
So,
bit. If
introduce
there's everybody else who hasn't got to say hello yet, you missed it. I'm sorry. That's it. We're done. Or hang out for a little bit and you'll get your chance to say hello later, because the purpose of all of that was not just to burn time, as I like to say. We actually want everybody to kind of understand who all is in the room. My name is Mark Beckett, and if you don't want to talk to anybody else, feel free to talk to me. Renovate houses, both from our own portfolio and for other people. Part of the CAZA group, that is our agency platform. Over at CAZA Construction, we renovate houses for sellers to get them ready for market, spend the absolute least amount of money to sell for the absolute most, right? I flip houses, you can too. It's kind of what we tell our sellers, right? That's Skylar, she's on my sales team. So if you ever want to talk about how you can do that and sell houses for more money as an investor or a seller of anything at all, talk to her, she'll get you set up. That's kind of what we do here, right? We talk about what we do and we get business from it. And the reason that we have you all introduce yourselves is because it will work for you too. Keep coming. And after 3 or 4 times, you'll kind of start to figure out who all is in the room. We've got contractors, we've got lenders, we've got agents, we've got rehabbers, a lot of stuff. Everything you need is actually here. If you come consistently to rooms like this and events like this, you will find you don't have to do a lot of crazy stuff to get business and get deals. They're out there. You have to talk to people about it. So that's what we do.
Yeah, we
That's why
always say you're literally just one cup of coffee away from your next business partner, right? The next investment deal. the next knowledge piece that unlocks everything for you. Because a lot of times when you're in your second meeting or your third meeting or your fourth meeting, you're just trying to connect the dots, right? You're like, what is this thing on sub twos? And how do I actually make money with short-term rentals, right? Hey, it's not as easy as it seems sometimes, as they make it out to be on TV, right? You buy a house and you end up with a Lambo and, like all sorts of real estate out there. This is a process. And so what we want to do is take you guys, come on through. We want to take you guys through this process. We want to make sure that you leave empowered with information. We want to make sure that you leave empowered with resources and contacts. That is the purpose. Just like Mr. Beckett said, we've been doing this now since
2009?
2008. I think I started it
You
in
started in
2006, right? 2000. I saw the official meetup was 2006.
Is that right?
Which is crazy, right?
That is a bit nuts.
I still remember our first meeting had 5 people in it. Today we've got 30,000 around North America, and we have local groups like these that break out, and they're investment clubs, right? And what we find is that this investment club ends up doing deals together, right? We want you to do deals together, and you'll end up finding your contractor. You'll end up finding your lender, right? That's the power of a network. That's the power of a community, right? So this is a community. And one of the reasons why, like Mark said, we do this is because we get a lot of deals out of this. We find a lot of listings. We work with a lot of buyers, and we buy a lot of real estate through you guys. So thank you, right? I always want to say this is your community. We want you guys also to thrive in this process. Now, tonight we're going to talk about
How to
short-term
thrive
rentals.
in short-term rentals. And so all that said, of course, as always, take everything we say with an enormous grain of salt. Don't believe any of it. We're lying through our teeth or telling you how it is we approach the business, but you do your own due diligence as you approach the business for yourself. The business of tonight, though, is STR, short-term rental, Airbnb, letting people sleep in your basement or your closet.
We're going to
and
give
making
you the
Excel.
good, the bad, and the ugly of short-term rentals, right? You guys have been hearing a lot of the negative press that's been going on with short-term rentals. Like
Who has a short-term rental?
Who's got
currently,
one
or
right
about to? About to.
Okay,
right?
we got a couple in
that-
here,
that own.
right? So what are some of the things that you guys have been hearing with short-term rentals, right? What's that?
The
bust.
Airbnb bust.
Yeah, the bust. Like, what is the bust?
And so my take on what the bust is a lot of people that own short-term rentals and have for several years are saying their calendars aren't as booked as they used to be, or they're having to lower rates to keep the calendar booked as opposed to 2020 and 2021 and 2022, right? The bust, though, if you look at the actual numbers and travelers and nights booked, is not in travelers and numbers in nights booked. There are more people traveling, utilizing short-term rentals now than there have ever been, and there are more today than there were yesterday. There will probably be more tomorrow. It's an enormously popular product, but there are also now a lot more hosts.
More competition.
And there's a lot more inventory for those travelers to choose from. Perhaps in some areas, in some markets, for some niches, more inventory than you can helpfully support, right, with the amount of travel going on and the amount of demand in that area. So there is, as always, everything is supply demand. And so there is a supply demand problem in some markets for some people.
When you go into the STR market, and we'll probably cover some midterm stuff tonight as well, right? When you go into the short-term rental market, you need to understand that you're actually going into the hospitality industry. So don't go into this business unless you're prepared to go into the hospitality industry.
Let's talk about what the business is first.
Sure.
Right, Rob? Heaven forbid we follow some of the slides.
No, I don't like slides.
Everybody's kind of familiar with rental real estate
I
is
hate
for
slides.
typical real estate investors, right? You stick somebody in there, you check in on them about once every year or 5 if you can get away with it. And when they decide to move somewhere else, they move out, you move somebody else in, right? That's typical long-term rental. You heard a couple people talk about midterm rental. A midterm rental is when you're renting month to month for a couple of months at a time, right? Traveling nurses, insurance companies, visiting professionals, people that want to stay in a place for weeks or a couple of months at a time. A short-term rental, though, we define as something that is rented on a nightly or weekly basis, usually at the most. I would suggest if you have rented for 31 days or more, you are no longer a short-term rental, and the law in a lot of states no longer qualifies you as a short-term rental. We can maybe touch on that in a little bit, but that's a particular wrinkle to be aware of. So short-term rental, by our definition, is your typical Airbnb that you rent while you're on vacation for a week, weekend, night, whatever, right? Short term, typically furnished, typically have everything that you might need in the space or more. Again, different than your long-term rental. You're renting usually there an empty box, bring your own stuff. Short-term rental, people expect to bring nothing but their sunscreen to your place, and you provide the rest, right?
Can I make a comment real fast?
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times people want to get into short-term rentals and they're, you got to go and you're thinking that you need to go buy another asset, you buy another house, right? And do that. But a really easy way to do it, if your significant other allows you to do it, right? And where you see a lot of people do this is they'll rent out their basement. They'll actually create a whole different, entrance and exit. They'll make it super nice. There's people always moving into this area or coming into this area that need some kind of place to stay in. They don't want to go to a hotel. They'd rather go to a house, right? Has anybody done that, by the way? Has anybody done any kind of where you're doing a short-term rental and you go to somebody's house, but it's a completely different wing? Or am I the only one that's done that? Right? Yeah. Like my wife and I were in Austin and we rented the pool house, right? Like it was awesome. And we had access to the pool and it was a couple $100 a night. It was super private. And the owners didn't even live in that. It was the dead of Austin summer. You can imagine, I can only imagine that they went up north somewhere, right? And they left the house because it was hot and we had access to the pool and the cabana in the back. It was so nice. And so that was an easy way that they actually kind of like house hacked their existing primary residence.
And that's how Airbnb started.
That's how
what
it started.
Airbnb means, right? Air mattress B&B. That's how it got started. People renting literal air mattresses in the living room of their house to just subsidize their mortgage.
Yeah.
It grew from there to become a platform and multiple platforms for people to semi-professionally, in some cases, rent entire units dedicated just to renting to people. And that might be what most people are now kind of familiar with. Oh, I'm going to go Airbnb and a condo downtown or a beach house at the beach. But it started as air mattresses, and they're actually coming full circle and coming back around now to, they're calling it spaces, to where they're now encouraging people to go back to that model of just renting part of a house because it gets them back to their roots of it was cheap housing. Airbnb originally competed against hotels on price. If a hotel costs you $250, $300 a night in the average city, stay on somebody's air mattress or in their spare bedroom for $80 a night, right? It became something entirely different. They both still exist. They can coexist. There are markets for everything in this space, but it is a way to house hack on these platforms by not just renting a place that you've bought, but renting part of what you already own.
Yeah.
So Airbnb is probably the 800-pound gorilla in the space. But when we're talking about short-term rentals, what made the business possible, because everybody had rooms to rent forever. But
Well,
where would people go to find?
I mean, people
those
did
rooms
that
for
like
rent?
that's how it was done, right? Back in the old days.
Right. And back in the old days, if you wanted to rent a vacation house, you'd find a vacation management company and say, what do you have available? And in the best case scenario on the internet, you could find websites for the management companies who manage certain numbers of units and if they were available, blah, blah, blah. Well, now with the advent of these short-term rental platforms, you have one place to go where everyone in the world that wants to be on that platform can put their place. That's what made this business possible, was the platform. So the platform gave, and there are ways that the platform has taken away a little bit from the business, but thankfully there is a little bit of competition now. So we have Airbnb, VRBO, Vacasa, Flipkey. What are the others?
Anybody else now?
Booking.com is
yeah.
the other really big one. VRBO got bought by the Expedia group that you may have heard of, the Expedia travel company. So there are several and just about more every month or two, but the big guys are Airbnb, VRBO, and probably Booking are the big three. And we'll talk about for a second in a minute about how you try to maybe get on multiple of those
And
platforms.
how we actually use a platform to get onto those multiple.
To get on the other
right.
platforms.
So we'll talk about that.
And so that's what it's about. And that is how this works. So instead of putting your thing on Craigslist and trying to rent it out for a year at a time, you advertise on one of these major platforms. The guest finds you, books there, pay there. The platform takes care of just about everything except supplying the experience to the guest. You get paid out later by the platform. They'll even, in most cases, take care of your taxes, your municipal reporting, all the stuff that you also do have to do when you're running one of these businesses.
Little hack real fast. Has anybody in here ever used Zillow to rent a property? Right? They've got a really simple, easy, slick system to rent a property, right? Now, we recently rented one of our properties that got denied a short-term license. And we're like, damn, we got denied the license, right? What do we do? Well, I was like, let me just put it on Zillow, advertise it as a fully furnished place, midterm, 31 days or more. And phone started like ringing off the hook for that, right? And we got somebody that paid 6 months in advance. It was like, sweet, that was great, right? And so get familiar, the point is get familiar with these platforms. It was completely free, didn't cost me a dime. We took some nice pictures, very important. We'll talk about that. And I was able to pivot quickly using the power of that platform, right? So it was in Front Royal, right? It was actually Linden.
Single family house.
Single family house in Linden. We complied with everything that they wanted us to do. We made one critical mistake. We didn't show up to the hearing because we thought it was in the bag, right? And what happened was two of the neighbors came and said, we don't want parties. We don't want, and we could have then argued the point, like, we're not going to lend it to anybody that's going to party. Like, this is a high-end rental. This is really nice. Like, and so anyhow, long story short, because we weren't there, it got denied because there was no voice on our side. And then we had the choice was to reapply. But once they deny you, like, they're not more than likely gonna, like, they'd been approving a lot of the applications, and we were thinking, okay, this is an opportunity for them to deny it, and they're not going to go back on it, right? They're just not going to. So we had to pivot, and that's going to happen, right? And what we'll talk about is, I actually think the numbers potentially shake out better midterm on some of these than short term.
Well, that gets into what we're going to talk about, why you do this, why you would do a short-term rental. Because as we will talk about in a moment, it is a lot more work than a long-term rental.
It's a hotel.
So we do it for money. Shocker, right? You make more money with a well-performing short-term rental in the right circumstance than you do with a long-term rental. So if a house in Linden rents year to year for a 1-year tenant moving into a clean vanilla box with their own stuff, rents for $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month for a 3-bed, 2-bath house in that area.
Believe it or not, like $1,800.
$1,800 a month. Great. As a short-term rental, you may be able to achieve $200 a night, $250 a night, $300 a night, because guests will pay for the flexibility to not have to rent, obviously, for a year at a time. Some people want to live in Linden year-round, but some people just want to visit places, right? So you are competing in the hospitality business for nightly stays, and people will pay more for a nightly stay than they will for a week or a month or a year. So again, in the right circumstance, in the right market, with the right product, you can make more money in the aggregate than you would renting otherwise.
So it's maybe, let's say, $1,600 to $1,800 a month long-term rental, and it is $4,500 to $6,000 a month with short-term rental. Gross. Good point. Because
gross.
and we're going to go through it.
We'll get to the why.
We'll go through it.
So people pay for convenience, right? And the ability to stay for that shorter period of time. So the way you figure out then how that math works, that nightly rate be 3 to 5 times the typical monthly rate. Actually, we'll go through some of the math, I think, here in a second. The where, so we know the why, we do it to make more money than we would renting another way, right? And where then do short-term rentals work? Where would you want to do it?
What do you mean where?
Where would you want to have a short-term rental?
Anywhere where I can create an experience.
Experience for who?
Experience for the consumer.
Who is
right?
doing what?
Who, what do you mean?
Traveling is the point. They have to be located where people are wanting to go.
Yes.
It works. These are destinations for whoever wants to stay in them. Doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be an exotic destination. Short-term rentals you see a lot of times in urban cities because it takes the place of a hotel. And that's when it gets back more to the trying to compete on price with a hotel as much as an experience. Ours are more experiential. We are geared more towards travelers looking for some kind of unique stay in our thing, but it can be as simple as you provide a box in a high-rise downtown that's cheaper for the night than the Hilton across the street. You may get that guest and you may book that, but somebody needs to want to stay there.
You know, what's interesting is my wife always tends, when we go out of town, she loves to do Airbnbs that are in condo buildings that have gym facilities and a pool. Like that's her thing, right? I'm not so into that, right? Like I want the cool little bungalow in the middle where the coffee shops are. And like, that is what I want. But she's like, no, we need a gym. We need to work out. Like, and so it's interesting, like what pulls people, and you have to understand that when you're creating this experience, because I think all of it is an experience, right? You got to be thinking about who am I catering to, right? Who is my avatar that's going to rent this particular property?
And what amenities are they looking for?
What
And
amenities
sometimes
are
the amenity is strictly convenience. If you are downtown and you're on public transportation and you compete well with a hotel, that is an amenity. If you're out in the mountains somewhere and people are looking for views and a hot tub and privacy and peace and quiet, that is your amenity. You need to be providing the correct amenity for the marketplace that you're trying to reach. But the point is, these things work anywhere people are traveling. Anywhere that you can get someone to travel to, or that you can provide the amenity set that will attract someone to travel to the place where your place is.
Some people are
That's what it's for.
like by the convention centers.
Convention
right?
centers work great. College towns work great.
Yeah, parents have to go and visit. the
Parents
kids
have
of
to
it.
go visit their kids. Convention centers are good. And another reason that Airbnb is popular and does still compete with hotels is that the prices have gone up. I don't know if anyone has been on the platform lately, but what you can pay a night for an average Airbnb is way more than the $80 it used to be to stay on somebody's old air mattress. It is now hundreds of dollars a night in a good location, but still oftentimes cheaper. We're going to BPCon in a couple of weeks in Orlando.
Anybody know what that is? Bigger Pockets?
Bigger Pockets. Anybody ever check them out? They have a convention down in Orlando. We'll be there in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, maybe we'll see a couple of you there. But rather than stay in the convention center hotel for, I don't know, however, it's like $800 a night, we get along pretty well. We found an entire house on Airbnb with multiple bedrooms and a nice kitchen and some amenities that we can stay for like $250 a night.
Our business
a third
partner
of the
Jess, though, is having a little bit of anxiety around it.
Our
She's
little
like,
sister will be there, but we'll work that out. But they compete on price for space versus some other types of accommodation in certain cities and in certain areas. So convention centers are popular, cities are popular. Obviously, anywhere that people want to travel, be it to ski or to beach or to hike or to whatever, just imagine any place you've ever wanted to vacate. Those are the kinds of places that are popular for short-term rentals, right?
I don't know if vacate is the right word.
Vacate is absolutely a verb.
Okay.
Someone look it up.
Well, it means to leave, but
All right. Well, it means to leave where you live to go somewhere else.
there you go.
So while we're vacating, what kind of property are we vacating in? What are we vacationing in, Rob? What kind of properties have you seen? Oh, look at you cheating and taking the spot out.
Well, kind of like, okay, I'm gonna vacation in like what I've seen.
Yeah.
My things are, I personally love little cabins, right? Who's seen the treehouse ones? I want to stay at a tree house one really bad. Anybody? You have?
What'd you think?
it?
How'd it go?
And
Yeah.
right? So people will pay for experience, right? I just had a friend of mine, he just spent some like $6 million in buying, this prop that there's a bunch of tree houses. It already generates a ton of revenue. He's really big in the Airbnb, like that's what he does. And he's just like, tree houses crush it for me. And
How
so
about, can an RV work?
RV can work,
How about
right? Airstream,
an Airstream? Airstream will work?
yeah.
How about a tiny house? Tiny house work?
Tiny house works,
How about a condo? Can a condo work?
condo works,
How about a mansion? Can a mansion work?
mansion works.
How about a tent? Would somebody rent a tent?
Yes,
Poop in a bucket?
yes.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
What people will do. Anything in the right location, meeting that amenity and location criteria for a certain traveler can work. And actually, the weirder, the better in a lot of cases, depending on where it is and who you're trying to
Yeah,
get.
like in Arizona, they've got like, like a flying saucer one that rents all the time and generates a ton of money. I don't know if you guys have seen that. So it's like play into your area, play into your market, like what amenities. So you start thinking like this is an experience, right? What's the experience you want to create?
So the kind of property then can really be anything as long as it meets the market, what the market is looking for the amenities and the cost, location, and the other things that you can provide for people to have and to do. Just know that the closer you are to other people, the more some of these other issues come into play, like what you were just talking about. If your property is in a condo building or a townhouse attached to other buildings, or your tent is in the backyard next to a neighbor, neighbors and homeowners associations and town councils and those people will start to care. So farther out can oftentimes be better from that perspective. Closer in is good, but people care about what you're doing with your short-term rental. So the closer you are to other people, know that you're going to have more people caring about what you do. So then it all comes back to research. Research your area, research your market, research your laws, research your transition, your shifts, the shifts in thinking and where things are going. Because 10 years ago, you could do this anywhere. 5 years ago, you could do this in Fairfax County. And last year, you could do it in Loudoun. And now you can't do it in any of those places, really. We'll talk about the law in a second, but just in case you're curious, like, oh, cool, Reston, great place. Lots of people up going to visit. We're near an airport, got it downtown. Let me do an Airbnb. In Fairfax County, your short-term rental, and the county has defined it as anything that rents for 30 nights or less, has to be 1, in your primary residence, 2, rented out for 180 days a year or less, and 3, get permits, get registered, go through this process where people get to come out and decide whether they like it or not and complain about it and whatever else. And there's a bunch of other stuff besides that. But first you have to clear it's your personal residence. Does anybody want to move out of their personal house for half of the year? If not, Airbnb in Fairfax isn't for you. Does it make sense to do for 180 nights or less a year with the mortgage you have to pay on a house in Reston? If not, Airbnb is not for you. So it changes, the landscape changes, and it can change drastically from day to day, depending on where a location kind of is in the process of dealing with Airbnbs and what kind of place it is. DC is a very travel-friendly, travel-heavy area, but Washington, DC, and most Maryland and Virginia suburbs do not allow traditional Airbnb.
My advice is to look for places that have already passed legislation and then work within whatever those rules are, right? Baltimore, we had a good friend of ours that started in Baltimore, and he was doing this 6 years ago, 7 years ago,
10 years ago.
10 years ago, didn't have, he was killing it, right? He's like, my mortgage payment is $2,000 a month and I'm getting $10,000 a month, right? And I'm like, oh my God. And then he went all in and started buying more properties in Little Italy and all the rest. And then what happened was 5 years ago, 6, however long ago, Baltimore came in and passed a rule that said no more. And so that model got completely crushed. Now, the good news is that, what do you think happened to real estate prices during that time that he owned them? They'd gone up. So he just kind of liquidated it out of them, ended up deploying the money somewhere else, right? But for a while, it was great.
Yep.
My advice is coming.
So you're looking for the
They're coming.
catch, like, great, I can make $8,000 a month renting my house out with some cool photos or a cheap tent. Yes, you can, but But the big catches are the rules, and the other big catch that you touched on earlier is the business is not renting a space. The business is hospitality. If you go into this business, know that you are entering the hospitality business, and your guests are guests. They're not renters, they're not tenants, they are guests, and they are expecting certain things from their stay from your place. So you need to be providing clean, convenient, unique, well thought out spaces.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's no way, we own a number of them now. There is no way we would want to do them without our partner, Kayla, who manages the day-to-day activity of these.
We are blessed to have someone who is dedicated and good at and enjoys the process of being a hospitality person. And if that's not you, then you need to find that person for you, or don't do this.
Or don't do it.
You will not last long in the space if you just have the cool house and put it up there and like, it's cool house, you'll be fine. It's not going to happen that way, right? Because just imagine these are guests traveling, expecting a stay somewhat similar, at least in experience, to the traditional hotel type experience. What happens when you get locked out of your room in the hotel?
Yeah,
You go downstairs to the lobby right now and they fix it. What happens when they get locked out of your Airbnb? They're on the phone expecting someone right now to fix it. It is an entirely different kind of experience that you have to provide and that you will be having as a manager than traditional rentals, right?
Yes.
And there will be complaints. No matter how clean, how nice, how well done your place is, logical, regional, rational or not, there will be complaints about your things. So how are you going to deal with that? There will be damage. Stuff gets broken. How are you going to deal with that? Those are additional things that you have to figure out how you're going to navigate to be in the space. So while we were talking about that gross, yes, the gross numbers are higher. There are other costs for the management, for the repair, for the dealing with some of the back and forth, or having a person do that for you to help manage the things. But we believe in property management. I use property management for all of our properties. This is no different. It's just a different kind of property management, a different level of responsiveness that you have to have.
Yeah, you got to respond
different
super
kind of
fast,
activity.
right? We are super host only because of her, because she responds on,
I have gotten texts at midnight on Christmas Eve that the TV broke.
yes, the TV fell off the wall.
The TV more than broke a little. The TV broke real bad. But the point is, it happened at midnight on Christmas Eve, and that's what you have to deal with. That is this business. If you've got someone
Some
saying
contractor put it up and didn't fully secure it to the wall.
not me, by the way. And yes, but please ask your question, and anyone also, by the way. This is a discussion. Like anything at any point.
Yeah.
Ask a question.
Go ahead.
Not about the yes or no, that's the wrong word, but as far as the short-term rentals go with luxury listings versus the more kind of mainline listings, like there's a lot of agents in this room where you've all had like the $1 million house is way more seamless than like the rental client, right? So is that the same with short-term rentals? Usually kind of luxury stuff is a little bit easier to manage, people a little bit more accepting or compared to, the lower value, or is there some sort of happy medium you found?
We don't do anything super high end, I guess like our Windy Knoll is expensive for the area that we're in. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and
I don't have enough
but if I
data
were-
to be able to give you.
If I were guessing, I would say that as a general rule, if you're talking about the host and guest experience interacting with one another and like how high maintenance or anything a person is, I would say that there is no standard and there is no better or worse or different. It's really about expectation and experience delivery. And so if there's a gap in the expectation, you can have a gap in expectation in a tent. You can have a gap in expectation for your mansion.
Yeah.
If the guest isn't getting what they expected, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And if something in the experience goes wrong, there's a problem. That happens all across the price band, right? So that's really the answer is you can have a problem anywhere with anyone at
That's
any
a good
point,
answer.
but the problem will
Right.
come from the expectation not being fulfilled. I thought I was going to get this, I got that. And so that's where your issue comes up. But as far as where it works and how it works, I think it's a relevant thing to think about. We see, I think, that it might be a little easier to kind of make it work at the lower inexpensive end and the higher end, because again, it's about experience. And the experience here, if you're out in Front Royal in a tent under the stars, is really cool, and you're able to provide that at a fairly competitive price point. And the experience up here, staying in a cool baller mansion somewhere out in the Smokies or LA or Florida, is obviously a really attractive thing. Just renting your regular average townhouse in Reston might not really be that easy to provide an experience for someone where they'll pay that premium that makes it worth doing versus long-term rental, midterm rental, other stuff, right? So besides the fact that you can't do it, I don't know that it really is able to drive that same experience that you're able to provide here and here.
And an interesting idea, just something you reminded me of. We have a gentleman on our team, Brandon, that rents his basement, right? And they've maxed it out. It's really nice, and they have had short-term clients come and stay. But he's like, you know what's interesting? We have a lot of people that stay with us that are in transition, like moms and kids fleeing bad situations, right? There's needs out there for something like that, where like, I have to get out of Dodge and I need to find a place, and the hotel is a little bit too expensive, and this makes more sense, and I feel safer.
And
so,
the platforms are seeing that too. And that's why that spaces thing is becoming more popular. So if you go on Airbnb, right across the top, they have all the categories. And what they were pushing for the last couple of years was those wow categories, the spaceships and the tree houses and all the cool stuff. They're now shifting and putting at least as much effort into these spaces.
Affordable housing.
It's affordable housing. Yeah, it actually weirdly, going from like a year ago, where I was like, Airbnb is nuts. It's really expensive, and I got a bunch of rules, and I got to take out their trash, to now it is going back more towards, they're trying to make it possible to be affordable housing, to share housing, right? It's now house hacking on a bigger platform.
Dookie. Good point. Yeah, grandparents visiting kids, right? They want a place. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about the experience of being a hotelier, which is what you are. You are a provider of an experience. And on most of these platforms, by the way, out of 5 stars on Airbnb, at least, anything below 4.7 in a guest rating, they will deplatform you. Not only do you show up lower on the rankings anyway, so you'll just die on the vine regardless, they will just pull you off. Why? Because there is so much competition. There's always another person joining the platform wanting to get into this business. They don't care. I don't want to say they don't care. I know we're recording this. They care about the hosts, but they don't need hosts. There are hosts everywhere wanting to get into the business space. They need guests. So their whole thing is, what do we do to keep guests happy? What we do to keep guests happy is show them the best available units with the coolest photos, with the most unique amenities, with the best pricing, that have the best hosts with the best rating, so those guests are happy. And they come back and they tell other people, I stayed at a cool Airbnb in Miami. I stayed at a cool Airbnb in Banff, Canada. That's what they want. That's what they need. And they'll always find more of us. So it's your job to figure out how to rank. And it's your job to figure out how to stay at a 4.7 star or above rating, so they do not deplatform you, and so that you actually show up higher in the rankings when somebody's looking for somewhere to stay. So that's the difference. And that's what you're getting paid for. That's why you're making 2 to 3x what you would be otherwise, because you're working harder to make this a true experience.
But let's talk about what we've discovered on some of these things, right? Like, yes, you're pulling in more revenue, but there's like a lot of cost in maintaining a hotel, right? You're probably going to have, 65 to 70% occupancy if you're lucky, like on average over the course of the year, right? And then, I'd say you take your gross and you're going to chop that in half. And that's typically your operating expenses are like 40 to 50% of whatever your total revenue is, right? And then you're like, okay, can I now pay my bills and my mortgage if that's the case? Makes sense? Like, you guys understand that? So if it's $6,000 and you say, okay, there's 50% operating costs, it's $3,000 that you now need to be able to pay your mortgage with.
And here's the stuff that creates that larger operating cost. If someone's staying at your mountain cabin and you've got a grill, your consumables now are not just, TP and paper towels, gas tanks. You've got to refill those tanks. If they've got a fire pit, you've got to get cut, split, burnable wood to the place. Generally speaking, you're going to want some technology in there like smart locks, smart thermostats, ways to monitor
Hot
cameras.
tubs. My electric bill is pretty high because of the hot tub.
Hot tub, depending on where you are. Or if
Right.
you're in a condo building, you're going to have keys to get to the pool and the gym and the garage, and those get lost. And those have a cost that you have to replace, right? So it's those amenities that you are providing that increase the cost of ownership of the unit.
Yep.
And increase your capital cost to be into the space. So do that research. You have to know what you're going to have to provide and what it's going to cost to provide it and maintain it and replace it and replenish it as you're owning your place. So the gross can get cut down significantly and quickly depending on what you're providing and what it costs to maintain your space.
Yeah.
And the big one obviously is cleaning. These places need to be clean. You get 2 or 3 chances to have somebody complain about the cleanliness of your place, and then you are again off the platform. They will deplatform you if too many people complain about the cleanliness of your place. Drops your star
Nobody's
rating.
gonna want to buy a
show up
short-term
anyway.
rental anymore. We're like talking them out of it.
Remember the 3 times the revenue, right? 3 times generally the revenue, but there are some catches.
We just want everybody to be aware.
There are some catches.
You got a question? Go ahead.
Sure. So what would you compare the management expense or management cost percentage of short-term rental compared to long-term?
What's Vacasa right now?
Well, Vacasa to do it for you is like 25%,
I think 20 or 25%, pretty substantial.
around 25%. Versus
Does it for you, you don't need to find your own manager?
yeah, so
You still have to manage the manager.
you still have to
Right.
manage the manager.
And are they gonna pour in potentially as much energy on that one than maybe if you were gonna self-manage? No, but you might get back all your time and that's great.
But the hot tub will still break. Vacasa doesn't pay for that. They just find the guy to go fix it and send you the bill, right? Not any different than normal property management, but normal property management, 7, 8, 9, 10%, 25, 30, 40. There are people out there who will co-manage with you. They'll co-own, except they're not owning anything, your short-term rental for 50%. Like, I'll do everything. I'll answer all the calls. I'll refill the TP. I'll handle all the stuff. You provide the house and we split what comes out of it. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's not fair because it is a lot of work.
It's interesting that, there's a whole, you guys probably heard of Airbnb arbitrage, right? Like there's a whole market of people that will go out and rent your property and then they'll zhuzh it up and make it really nice. And then they will, and you have to get permission from the owner to be able to do it, like tech. So then they go out and they create that gap in income and they've built themselves like this reoccurring revenue. I've got a friend of mine that does that. He brings in $500,000 a year just doing that. He doesn't own any of the real estate underneath, but he's definitely in the, getting properties rented, creating an experience.
But think about that for a second. The place like a cool, it's like Miami, maybe you can still do it. I don't know. Just think of a cool city that still allows STR in a downtown urban popular environment. Let's say it's Miami. Baller beachfront condo rents for $3,000 a month. Would cost you $2 million to buy it. Has whatever the maintenance fee is for the building, doesn't matter because that's baked into the $3,000 a month rent. You rent it for the $3,000, put it on the short-term rental platforms and rent it out at $500-600 a night. You're clearing $8,000-9,000 a month on your $3,000 a month rental, and you put $0 down other than furnishing it and what you had to do to get it ready for the platform. Arbitrage is hugely powerful where it works.
Yeah.
And if you can get all the things to line up to find a landlord who is amenable to you renting, and it's a fairly easy pitch, like, hey, I will guarantee it. I will guarantee the rent for however long the period of time is that you want. Your money's always going to show up. Here's how I'm going to manage the platform. I'm going to make sure that people don't trash the place, that you won't get complaints. We vet, we verify, and you're just going to be a really happy landlord. I'm just going to put it on this thing. Don't worry about what I'm doing in the background. I'm going to do my
Has
thing.
anybody ever heard of Hip Camp? Okay. This is where you can actually rent your land. So people might want to just come and pitch a tent, right? And if you go to hipcamp.com, you'll see people like are constantly just renting their land. What I like about that is like, not a whole lot of things for me to do. It's just like, there's the land, right? Or you can come and like park your RV and you might say, well, I just need access to some water, right? So people do that. Now, the other step that people do is they'll approach an owner of land and say, hey, is it okay if I rent this section of land from you, for $500 a month? And the person's like, sure, I don't do anything. Yeah, $500 a month. Great. Now, what I am going to do is put it on a platform and rent it out to people. Are you okay if people are coming? And they're like, yeah, sure. It's off in the distance. I'm not even aware of it. So then what they'll do is they'll arbitrage that. They'll put up some kind of a glamping site, some kind of tent, and they're going to rent it for $100 a night. So it costs them $500 a lease, right? And they're bringing in, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month. And
You
so,
can do really cool creative stuff.
Yeah.
Burning Man hipsters love an Airstream. You rent that plot of property for $500 a month and drag an Airstream out to it and hang some fairy lights out front of it. I guarantee you, you're going to clear $350 a night. That's a really cool and unique way to hack your way
Yeah.
into a rental
lot,
property.
lot,
right?
lot. Thomas was going to say something. Go ahead.
I mean, every property that we manage in Alexandria, I get a ton of people who are calling in. You can just tell it's finding properties, anything that goes live, we just give you a ring. Hey, we'd like to come in, we'd like to do exactly that. They have their pitch. And owners don't necessarily love it because they lease terms that they always come with their own lease. But I mean, it is definitely happening a lot.
It's, by the way, it is a big business model. You guys see that apartment building right across the street, right? These are kind of like hipster luxury apartments. Well, there are companies that will go in and lease 20 of those apartments. And then what they'll do is they'll actually Airbnb those apartments with permission from the owner, right? What's that?
There's a company called Y Hotel in DC area.
Y-
Rise and Pisons, they rented like, at one point, I think they had half of the units.
Yeah, yeah.
They go crazy.
Sometimes it's also a way that developers are able to get a lot of their financing through. They're like, they get a company that comes in and guarantees that half of their property is going to be rented right off the bat. Great, they rent it, and then they're going to go in and start renting some of those. Like the Harrison does that here in Reston as well. I found some of those on Expedia, right? And they were corporate rental. That, by the way, that's what corporate rentals are, right? It's been around a while.
Yeah, I wonder how that works with the short-term rental legislation. I don't know. Anyway,
In regards to that, I know that some people got in trouble in DC because what they were doing were signing leases that allowed subletting.
Yeah.
And then they would sublet for a night. So
Right.
the lease was still
Valid.
as it was.
Mhm.
And I know that they did get in this in trouble, but I know that that is a pretty common.
Yeah.
and by the way, about the getting in trouble bit, you're only in trouble unless you're found out, right? So who's all right? Well, fine. I'm just going to stick it on Airbnb and see what happens, right? So
By the
of
way-
course, the marketplace abhors a vacuum, and so the vacuum that was created by people just breaking the law was there are now companies whose only job is to scrub Airbnb in municipalities where there are regulations, and then go back to the regulator and provide the list. And they actually even send out the fine letters now for you. Like it's all one-stop shopping. We will generate another couple $1 million a year for you in revenue, municipality, by getting all your Airbnb cheats and finding the crap out of them.
By the way, some of those condo buildings that my wife likes to rent in, like a lot of times the owners are like, don't mention Airbnb to
Oh,
anything.
totally.
Right?
I did a
Don't
place in
mention it.
Canada.
I'm like, okay.
The whole thing, the guy in
I'm sorry.
Canada, he's like looking this way, looking that, here's the card. You're my cousin. I'm like, fine. I don't care. I'm not taking a whole lot of risk as the guest, but as the host, you're taking a little bit of risk there.
Okay.
So that's what we're saying. Keep in mind, know your legislation. It changes as a result of just the reputation that it gets among communities. There are a lot of people who don't like the thought of party house next door with a thing, and just as much from the hotel business, because this takes away stays from hotels. So you better believe that most legislation in most cities is sponsored by hotel companies who are attempting to legislate short-term rentals out of business.
Let's do this. What?
Actually, this looked at an EXO building and they will allow you, if you come in with like a company, you can lease under your company. And then you'll have your contractors, right, come in and then sublet that place from you. So like Airbnb, or if you're an individual owner, you can rent it, Airbnb it for 30 or 16 days out of a month.
Wow.
as a normal owner. Yeah, great start.
That's cool. That's cool. It's
Interesting.
good to know. Give me a time check. What time do we have? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll be
wanna
out here
do-
by midnight, easy.
No,
So,
no, Bronson, 7 o'clock.
and so travel, just think about, places that people are going to travel and any restrictions on travel, like, a major global pandemic breaks out. It got kind of weird for like 30 days. Everybody canceled every booking in the world and no one was sure when they were going to poke their head out of the hole again. But then after 2 or 3 months of that, the revenge travel kicks in, right? Everybody's like, oh, by the way, I want to get out of town, get away from everybody. So then Airbnb spiked and everybody made a killing. You couldn't not make money in Airbnb through the second half of 2020 and almost all of 2021. There's so many people going everywhere. You were just making money hand over fist in Airbnb. So our pro tip, then stick to tourist destinations where the local economy is dependent on travel because they are less likely to regulate you out of business. Florida, and there are still some parts of Florida that have more regulations than other, like Miami, downtown areas. Orlando, still rife with Airbnb because they're a travel-based market. They wouldn't exist without bringing as many people as possible into town as they can. So generally better regulatory environments in high travel areas or farther out, right? Like the front royals of the world out here, you get about an hour away from the city and they don't quite have the same problem with it that they do around here. How do you start in the space? I say start with Airbnb because they are still the 800-pound gorilla. They will have the most product for you to be able to look at and see. The most market research that you'll be able to do is on that platform. VRBO is catching up, but Airbnb is still the best, biggest platform because they make it the easiest for people to find accommodations. That'll make it the easiest for you to do your market research. Get started in places that you already go. If you like going there, it's probably a place other people like to go. Think of what you like to do and think of how you can buy, hack, arbitrage your way into a unit in a place like that. The things you're going to want to research: your area, your competition, your customer, and your property types that you can Airbnb out, right? So the area means what is your access to airports, towns, roads, other attractions, cleaning service. We have units that are a little bit farther out. You have to work a little bit harder to find a service to come and clean these every day, every 2 days, however often people are checking out. You've got to clean and turn that unit over.
Use
so think about getting
AirDNA
funded.
for some of your research. What's another one besides AirDNA?
AirDNA is the biggest.
Map. Yeah. So
But I don't think you need to go past AirDNA. Actually, it'll show up here in a second.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert: AirDNA is the main website for zip code based short-term rental market data that gives you average daily rates and competitive calendar analysis to show who is renting. Which brings us to the competition. Who is renting? So find out what is renting in your area. How full are their calendars? How do their units look? How are they rated? What amenities are they offering? And then most importantly, how much are they getting? What is their price? How does their price fluctuate from day to week, to month, and season to season? Seasonality is a thing in most markets, right? Especially for travel markets. So just because a place is booked in July doesn't mean it'll be booked in February. Look in their calendars and see. You can do that on Airbnb. The other thing you're looking at is the customer, the user base, right? Is it an area that's popular with families, outdoor people, large groups, conventions? Look for what's popular in your area and then maybe consider delivering that. If you're in a mountain town, cabins are popular with access to trails and rivers and wineries. If you're downtown, access to sports facilities and colleges and airports are popular. So again, travel. Where are people going? What are they looking for? Look for those areas. That's where you'll want to be. And you'll want to stick to the kind of property that makes sense in those areas. So out in the middle of nowhere, a tent and an Airstream and that kind of stuff might work. Just because you can find a cheap condo building somewhere out in the middle of nowhere doesn't mean that's really going to be popular in like a cabiny, get away from it all kind of town, right?
Fetishes. Okay.
All right, moving along.
No. So everybody's like, hold on. So, no. We've got Halloween coming up. People love, right, buying. There's a whole segment of people out there that will buy haunted houses, right? And literally they will pay good money to go stay the night at a haunted house. I mean, Skylar wanted to buy a house that looked like a haunted house to me out in Stevensville or something, like I forget what it was. It was gorgeous, but it was definitely somebody got killed there at that house and was haunted for sure. Yes, it had a cemetery in the back. It was awesome. Like, it was great. So,
All right. Yeah. So have you seen the guest reviews on Windy Knoll? As far as amenities requested? Well, spoiler alert, people are asking about a hot tub. If all of the competition around you has a hot tub, you're probably gonna need a hot tub. If all of your competition is giving access to bicycles to pedal around downtown, you're probably gonna need to have a bicycle. Pay attention to what your competition provides in the way of an amenity set and to be prepared to provide it yourself, right? And then check property value versus rental rates. So tents, really cheap. So that's going to make a lot of sense. If I can buy a tent, a super awesome, domey, gorgeous tent for $1,500 and it'll rent for $50 a night, that math works. But if I'm in downtown
not during
Fairfax
winter,
City, and maybe not in the winter, and a house is going to cost $750,000 and might rent for $200 a night, but only for 180 days a year, trust me, that math doesn't work. So check what you're going to have to pay for the thing versus what it will rent. And absolutely everything won't work for short-term rental. You do still have to own it at a price where it's below what your expected revenue is going to be. But this is an area where you can buy new and actually make money. Really hard to buy a new property and rent it out long-term and have it make any sense, but you can buy and build a $3 million house outside of Orlando and rent it for $850 a night. Check Airbnb. People are doing some really interesting things in the space by spending real money and building new and building these unique things and then renting them out at big profits. So here's the numbers you need to know. The two big numbers, occupancy rate and nightly rate. Occupancy rate is the amount of the month that the place is rented. Again, make your life easy, just go on AirDNA. If you want to know about a particular area, you just have to pay. So you're going to pay $50 a month per zip code. It'll get expensive if you just want to like blanket research an entire area, but that's okay. You don't have to. Go on YouTube and look up AirDNA or Airbnb research. You'll find a bunch of videos on people walking you through how to go on Airbnb, open up calendars, find out what other people's occupancy rate is, find out what their average nightly rate is, and then doing the math and figuring out how much money they're making. That's all you need. What percent of the month is it expected to be rented? And what is the average nightly rate? Multiply those two things together, gives you the effective nightly rate. That times 365 is your annual gross revenue. That's fairly straightforward math. Everybody get the photo of the fairly straightforward math.
Okay.
All right. So if a place is rented 75% of the time for an average of $200 a night, 0.75 times 200 means it's an effective average nightly of 150 times 365, $54,750 per year is the expected gross revenue for a house that rents 75% of the time for an average of $200 a night. Make sense?
yes.
Apply that to anything else you're looking at. And then AirDNA will do it for you. All right, management we talked about for a second. You have to be available 24 hours a day. People call at 6 o'clock in the morning or they text through the platform. Midnight, the well has quit working, the toilet doesn't flush, the neighbor is being mean, whatever. It is a 24-hour availability business. Professional management, as we're talking about, you can spend anywhere from 20 to 50% to have someone do all of it for you. If you're looking for somebody to help you with the cleaning and the hot tubs and the TP and the lockouts and the maintenance guys and all that stuff. Good photography is absolutely essential. So if you don't do anything else, hire a professional realtor grade photographer to take great photos and touch them up of your unit. That is the very first thing people see. And if you're on page like 2, you have to work that much harder to stand out amongst all the other good stuff on the page. So you need what they call the hero photo, and it's whatever your coolest thing is, your mountain, your hot tub, your city, your skyline, whatever it is, have be your number one photo and have somebody take a really good version of it. Online platforms can handle other things like cleaning. We have used some of them. Closer in, they work better. The farther out you are, the less you can depend on somebody's service of a service. Just you're going to have to go and find your own cleaner, but that's what Facebook Marketplace is for. And Craigslist, hire a cleaner for $15 an hour. You can actually hire a person and just say, clean my Airbnbs. People would happily do that for a living. And you can control your cost a little bit better that way too than using a service to clean your units. All right, going multi-channel, we talked about that. Start with Airbnb because it is the biggest, largest platform, but pretty soon thereafter, once you get the hang of that, you'll want to be on multiple platforms, both for profitability and for staying booked. Airbnb is probably the most expensive. It's somewhere around 15%, I think, to the guest and 8%, I think, to the host. VRBO, a little bit cheaper than that. Booking.com, a little bit cheaper than that. So if you can get booked on a cheaper platform, great, you make more money, but more than likely you're going to need to be on multiple platforms because you want to get all the eyeballs you possibly can and all the opportunity you can because it is a competitive marketplace.
So we use, what is it that
We
use?
are on Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com, and we use Hostly, thank you,
Yes.
as the platform manager of the platforms. And what Hostly does is it syncs. So
Syncs everything.
somebody books us on Airbnb, VRBO blocks it out. Somebody books us on Booking, Airbnb calendar automatically gets blocked out. So we can't have people booking the same night on multiple platforms. So it syncs in between all of those other platforms.
And ideally, if you could create an Instagram page, a website, you could start going direct to consumer and you cut out the platforms.
100%. You really want to encourage repeat visits, people to review you on places other than the regular booking sites. Make a Google page. Let people review you on Google so that you can start to either organically show up or pay to show up when people are searching vacation, mountain house, front royal. Find another way to get in front of people because you can then pocket that 8% to the host, 15% to the guests, like 20-something%. You can give people a 10% discount versus the Airbnb price and pocket more money if you can book them on your site as opposed to having them go through the platform.
The house we stayed at for our retreat one year, Lake Anna Oasis, has its own website, has its own Instagram. Now I remember the Instagram, like it has like actually like you tag it and they thank you, like it was engaging. A couple months ago, one of my friends was asking, and I mentioned the house and just reached out directly to him on Instagram. And you think you're getting a discount because, hey, I can save this much in fees, but he's also making more money.
100%.
100%.
Right? Yeah.
So it's actually making money by.
Who's got questions? Let's start.
Come on, man. I've only got like 5.
Oh my God.
Maybe like 15 more slides.
Yeah, it's like back to school. I got
no.
slides.
This is important shit though. Dynamic pricing, right? Do not just price your place at $200 a night. Tuesday is worth less than Saturday. Make sense? Go on Airbnb, look at what people are doing. There are platforms that manage that. Price Labs is the one that we use. What Price Labs does all the research, looks at the competition, says, great, your Tuesday should be $135, your Saturday should be $435, and they do it automatically. You just get the money when somebody books it. You have to check it and make sure that it's accurate-ish, but the platforms will help do that dynamic pricing for you. Day to day, week to week, season to season, special events, big game in town, price for more that weekend, right? Dynamic pricing.
Price Labs.
Price Labs
Price
is
Labs.
that pricing platform.
Yeah.
The review, dispute and resolution process. You will live and die by your ability to resolve disputes when they come up. Just know that every platform is slightly different. They are all extremely consumer friendly. So just be prepared to resolve as much as you can before having to deal with that process, and stuff will just get broken, and just kind of live with it. Don't chase everybody down for every nickel. Not a good way to get good reviews.
When I did Airbnbs, in the beginning when I had no reviews, I rented it from myself and gave myself a review. It cost me a little money to pay Airbnb. That's how I came up.
It's good.
And everybody does it. Everybody does it. Give your friends and family like dollar
Discounts.
deals to stay in the place. and give you some good reviews. They'll figure out some way to make that hard to do, but I think for right now,
Yeah.
it's still possible. One of the last things, we talked about it before, be unique. That is where the big money is in the different states. I just got back from Key West. We stayed on a yacht for a week. Really cool. Just a completely different experience than you're going to get just about anywhere else doing anything else. People will pay for that. And you don't have to work as hard if you've got a cool thing that people will be happy to experience.
It was for his
Doesn't
birthday.
have to be nice. So yurts, tree houses, boats, Airstreams, tiny house. It doesn't even have to be comfortable. Boats aren't really all that comfortable to live on. They're just unique and they're different. People will pay for unique. Be unique. And then the last bit, if we didn't make it clear already, this is a business. Take it seriously, right? You have to hawk those reviews. You have to pay attention to how things are priced. You have to make sure people are happy. You have to follow the rules, follow the laws, pay your taxes, and you will succeed or fail based on your ability to stand out and get good reviews and provide those experiences for your guests and treat people like guests.
Everybody here, for the most part, has probably been a consumer of a hotel or stayed at an Airbnb. I'm just curious, what are some of the most memorable experiences you guys had? Right, where you were like, damn, that was great. Had a good time.
So our company review was in a how many bedroom house? 14?
Which one?
The one last year. It's like a 14 bedroom house.
It slept 30 people.
We had 30 people in a like 14 bedroom massive house. That was unique and that was different. But we still paid for it and they still made the money. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But how many 14 bedroom houses are there? Raise your hand if you know somebody's got a 14 bedroom house within a 45-minute drive of DC.
Yeah, it's like they're
rare.
By the way, there's a niche because we're always looking for a place to be able to bring the entire company, right? That has 30, 40, 50 people. You can't find it. It's very difficult. So we found one. Yes, it was a little run down. They had a cool pool and an awesome area where you could actually have like a big event.
2 hot tubs.
2 hot tubs, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Actual castle that you could rent out on Airbnb.
$20,000
Yeah.
a week, I think.
Years
that place.
ago, Thomas fell down, rolled down the hill of a farm that we stayed at, right? That was a lot of fun. What's that? You rolled into the chicken coop. Yeah.
That actually brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Is there any additional liability?
There you go. The insurance. No, we don't insure these at all, right? There's no, yes. So Erie Insurance is who we use, and they actually insure short-term rentals. And you want to make sure that you're letting your insurance person know, hey, this is a short-term rental, right? You could also get a liability policy that's kind of over all your properties. But Erie's got a program for that. So
for sure. Yeah, that's just becoming an issue just globally, right? The places burn down and flood. It is more expensive to insure the building, the property, regardless of what you're doing in it. The Airbnb aspect of it does have a slightly increased premium around the liability of that versus a long-term rental, but it's not that drastic. It's not that big of a delta. The big delta is just when areas become uninsurable, period, because they get leveled by tornadoes and floods. That's a thing. People do like to vacate on coasts and places that have natural disasters. And yeah, it's something you have to be aware of. I'm not aware of anywhere yet that's just completely prohibitive. But like New Orleans and Missouri and some of the Gulf Coast areas, it's gotten really expensive. The insurance I've seen in some of the forums has gone up like 200% in the last year.
You know, and I'll be transparent, right? We've been in the process of putting 5, 6 of our properties into short-term rentals, and it's not easy, right? It's definitely the hospitality industry, and after all the expense, we haven't found the like, oh, this one just prints money, right? It's like we're trying to make them work. We're just like a business. Like these are little businesses, and you're trying to maximize revenue, trying to minimize expenses. It's not like hey, we're just killing it with this. Plus, we're with interest rates where they are right now at 8.25%, 8.5%, it makes it more difficult, right? Hopefully here we'll have a story that comes back and be like, we bought this one little piece of property and we put a tent on it and we're making $5,000 a month. Like when that happens, when we're just like a massive spread, actually, we won't even tell you about it because we don't want you to come in. No, in all seriousness, it's like we've been trying to figure out the right algorithm to make it all work, right? So I would say do one, digest it, see how it works. Did you make money, not make money, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing is going to be the uniqueness to be able to rise above the competitive marketplace that you'll be in a lot of places. Every short-term rental has the ability to stand out if the person that owns it and runs it works hard enough on the experience and on the amenities and on the decor and all of it to make it stand out. And not everybody does. So that's your opportunity. But it's easy to see. Go on the platforms and you'll see the ones you'll stop like, oh, that's cool. Go into its calendar. I'll bet it's full. And then you'll see the like dozen also rans underneath it that are in the same area but don't look as cool. Their calendars aren't as full. So it's easy to know. It just takes work to do.
I have a friend, he built my treehouse, and he owns like a high-end, kind of like he built his own high-end treehouse. And he makes $100,000 a year after all expenses on that one treehouse.
To have a bathroom?
It's got a bathroom. It's nice amenities. It is like a for real. What's that?
Where's it located?
Like around like where's Jamie at? Like here's like somewhere out there, right? No, it's not Sean. I didn't know he had a treehouse. Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, but I don't think he bought a treehouse. Did he? Or maybe he did. Yeah, maybe.
How about a zoo? People love animals.
Yeah.
Buy a thing and like let llamas run around. People love.
Yeah,
people love to pet
actually,
your llama.
one of the things, and then we'll end it here and we'll let you guys know. One of the reasons why we started getting into the space was because I interviewed, what's his name?
Rob, just go to the slides, bro.
Oh, I interviewed Kai Andrews, right? There we go.
Other resources include Kai Andrews.
Right. And by the way, he runs a great YouTube channel. Like if you want to learn a little bit about this. So I interviewed him, and he had a friend, Cassie, I think, or Cass, her name is. And what she did was she bought a piece of property and she put unique, cool little experiences on the property. So she had an Airstream, and they had like a little hobbit house, and they had like little cabins. But one of the things that she had was like a little llama farm, like a little, like just like ostriches and llamas. And they also did weddings. And she was bringing in $50,000 a month on a asset that all in she was in for about 500,000 in all cost, right? So you just start doing the math and you're like, okay, maybe her total cost all in was like 4,000. And she's bringing in 5,000 a month, right? Now, she had to get the right permits to make sure that she could have weddings there, because that was a big one. That was a big kicker, like they could do weddings. And weddings, you can find a piece of land where you could do a wedding, and it doesn't mean that you're actually hosting the wedding, it's just providing the land. And go at it, wedding planner, you do whatever you want, you just have access to this land. And they charge, I mean, you guys know this, like brides and grooms pay a ridiculous amount of money to get married, right?
Surrounded by farm animals, double.
Yes. There you go. Yeah.
Llamas are famously self-sustaining. So other resources include your Kai Andrews, short-term rental, long-term wealth. Good book. Optimize Your B&B, the definitive guide to ranking #1 in Airbnb research. And then other local experts.
Lenny, you got a question? Go ahead.
So when you get started in this, what realistically is your net, right? So you're putting in all this effort, taking all this risk. Is this like you're probably at like 5%, 10% after it's all said and done, forgetting your fine.
Or you lose money, or you make like 30 or 40%. It
It's-
all depends on the
It's
asset.
all over the place. It's
Yeah.
really all over the place. There's not a set formula. There's not a set thing that works. What works is unique. And what works is being able to stand out on the platforms to stay booked. And what works is manipulating the algorithm of the platforms to be multi-platform, to always be price optimized, to always be doing the right kind of promotion around the best weekends and then squeezing the most you can.
Lenny,
If there's a
that,
big thing going on that weekend, squeeze price, right? Raise price, raise price, raise it. And don't let yourself get booked 8 months out in advance. Don't open your entire calendar for the whole year and get the best weekends in the fall booked 8 months out for your $200 a night when you could have gotten 6, right?
yeah,
That's what
Lenny,
people
that's
mess up.
like asking the question, what is the profit margin of a contractor? Right? It's like, well, yeah, there's averages. You got people that are absolutely crushing it and others that are not making any money, and you've got like an average that's there. But what is the average profit margin of a business
Well, I
like
was
that, right?
more when you get started, if realistically you actually are making.
Oh, that's a different
cash
question.
flow positive
Oh yeah, you can
or not.
you can kill it from the very beginning with that arbitrage model, right? Because think of just the investment is so little when you don't have to buy the place. You just go and rent someone else's building, unit, whatever, doll it up, put it on the platform, and then you just have to outperform what it costs you per month.
The
to
big thing
rent
is,
from
what's
the-
your cash on cash return,
Right.
right? You put in $10,000, you know, are you bringing in $20,000 in that year? I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
right? Cash on cash return is ridiculous at that point. So what's the cash on cash return? And that's how you start looking at all of this.
The ones that I see and the people I follow, the ones that seem to really be killing it the most are the ones with those lower priced arbitrage based condo type of things, or the tents or the RVs, or things that are cheap to supply.
Tiffany's mom.
The cheap to supply, that's right. The cheap to supply because the experience cost is very low, or the really, really expensive because the experience value is very, very high and
Yeah.
very, very big and good
Yeah.
looking, right? It's the middle is where it is tough, but it can be profitable at either point.
Michael.
It just takes work.
When you're looking to like acquire a new Airbnb, are you taking the same approach you would for a long-term rental, finding a distressed property, renovating it?
Yes,
Great question.
yes.
Always, right? We always want a deal.
We always buy wholesale. We never buy retail.
That said, it does still work to build new or take dirt and put a dome on it, right? But if you're looking at buying a thing that's already built, yeah, why would I ever want to pay more for someone else's renovation? Because the point of a short-term rental is it needs to be a little funky, a little unique anyway, right? So if I'm looking for my bungalow in the Carolinas somewhere, I'd rather buy one roughed up and then be able to really go nuts with the finishes on the inside that I know are going to work on the platform, right? Like that hero photo.
Right, to take into account the like resale value of the house, or you still focus?
Another good question. So it depends on how long you plan to be in it and do you own it or are you arbitraging? If I'm arbitraging, I can't knock down walls anyway. But if I own it and I expect to be in this business for a couple of years, then yeah, screw it. I'm gonna stick a hot tub in the back because it's gonna make me money. Will it help me sell the house? Probably not, but it'll make me money now. So you do have to take some risk on, well, if I'm going to spend what it takes to spend to get these where I need them to be profitable, you have to have some expectation of I'm doing this for this money for a certain period of time. And then if my exit plan is to sell, some of this stuff may or may not necessarily help me
Come
sell.
back. Yeah.
That's
Go ahead.
part of it.
Just along the times, in terms of seasonality and holdover and vacancy, you said they count for so much more of that. If say you're only for the summer months, you're having a holdover for 30 months all the way through to that 6 months back around again. So you buy a new property again, the timing of that property, you're buying it into the bad season, holding over a bunch of
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So who says you have to just do one thing? When it's not high season, you midterm, right? So depending on where you are, there may be a market in those other seasons for the travel nurse, the traveling professional, the
Insurance is a big one.
insurance companies, right? When people get displaced from their houses, the insurance company has to put them somewhere. They work with short and midterm rental operators to place their clients in that temporary housing. So you can do that to kind of fight the seasonality and squeeze the most you can out of the peak part of the season for your short term, and then do other lengths of stay other times of the year. You can. Airbnb now and VRBO, maybe Booking, has a
midterm
different
rentals.
category for more than a 30-day stay. Quick bit about that. Once you're more than a 30-day stay in most major-ish metropolitan jurisdictions, you're now a landlord-tenant relationship. So while Airbnb will let you do it, they'll let you rent for 60 days. You should double up the agreement built into Airbnb, and you can do it. You are allowed to communicate with the person staying in your property, and you can say, great, you've signed up on the platform, you want to stay for 60 days, no problem. Here's my lease. You now have a lease for 60 days. And at the end of that lease, I can call up a property manager if I needed to and evict you if you choose to hold over. Whereas with the built-in platform agreement, it's a lot more wishy-washy about what happens after 30 days if you don't have a well-defined regular landlord-tenant relationship evictable lease. So watch out for that for any stays above 30 days in most metropolitan areas that have landlord-tenant law.
Okay, last question.
How's that the last one? We'll be here all night. I've got
No,
like 8
no,
more slides, dude. 8 more slides.
I told, no.
No, did anybody get anything out of this though? Did anyone get any decent information out of what we were talking about, hopefully?
Not out of the slides.
Right.
I'm joking.
I was actually talking to somebody today who is in military and was excited about doing short-term rental. And to me, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You're not here to manage it. So what I always talk to people about when they're looking at short-term rental is really protecting the bottom line, meaning worst case scenario, all the rules change. All of a sudden, the numbers don't make sense. Can I rent this out as a long-term rental, buy and hold, and it still makes sense? If that's the case, then I can go for short-term rental, or I put up with the hassle for more money. But worst case scenario, this is just a normal rental.
There's a lot of wisdom in that. That's always protecting the downside and calculating your numbers on that. That is excellent, right? Did we do that? No, we didn't do that. Did I wish we did that? Yes, I wish we did that. Right?
To me, that's where you start.
That's where you start. I think it's fantastic. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Right, Mark? Round of applause for Mr. Beckett, right?
Last slide.
Okay.
If you did get anything out of this at all, the best thing you can do for yourself is tell other people. The more people that are in this network, the more people you'll have in your network, the more people you have in your network, the more business you're going to do.
Yep.
So do us all a favor. If you thought there was any value to what you've seen or heard, tell other people about it. And we'll have more people here that we can do more stuff with. And that's the point.
Mark, can I add something to that? We have an email list for Grid for this chapter. Every chapter is separate. There are whether deals or newsletters that go out. For example, I have a property in DC that's going to be a flip that I'm going to put on the market next week. I will send that to the Grid network first before I put it out there to anybody else on MLS. So if you're interested to be part of this email list and you're already not, if you're not getting our regular emails, come see me and I can.
Yeah, if you guys aren't on the Facebook group, like definitely join the community Facebook group,
The
right?
Grid Investor Community on your Facebook. And it's a group, not the page. You have to join the group. It is a private group. You have to ask to be let in because we'll kick you out if you get spammy or weird.
Get spammy.
But consequently, we don't have a lot of spammy weirdness. We just have people posting deals.
They're
and looking
posting
for
deals, right? Like
lenders and offering money. And
my friend, I think I told the story. My friend Isabel made a $250,000 assignment fee thanks to Buki in the back. Buki brought the buyer. She controlled the property. She made $250,000. Buki made $25,000 on that introduction. It's like bada bing, bada boom. It was awesome.
Bada
right?
boom. So Grid Investor Community on Facebook asked to join the group, and we'll let you in if we think you're hot.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, guys.
That's all I got.
Thanks so much. Right.
Thanks everybody for coming out.
If anybody has questions, Beckett has the answers.
I have a slide for that.